Evening. Today's live session, we are going to discuss about the anti-defection law, a very important legislation over the last couple of years, a topic that has always been in news. So, in this session, I'm going to basically explain you all important things that you are supposed to know about the anti-defection law. To begin with, let's understand what is defection. Okay, very, very important, not just from the prelims perspective for UPSC, even from the mains perspective, it is very important. It is one of the most asked topics, it is one of the most contemporary topics in polity, uh, especially after the rise of the regional parties. Defection has become a constant issue in Indian political system. And there have been a lot of judgments on defection. There have been a lot of controversy surrounding defection. Defection, especially the speaker's office, also there has been a lot of controversy. So let's understand what do you mean by the term defection? Let's begin with this. Defection usually is, in English, it means a desertation, meaning you leave somebody. Okay, that is called as desertation. So defection is basically desertation, leaving somebody in between. Beach machtar kisi ko chodna is called as defection. Now, defection is bad. Why is it bad? Why shouldn't we allow defection? But before that, how do we understand political defection? Political defection is simple. I am elected on one party ticket, a party ticket. After I become an MP or an MLA, I go and join B party. This is called as defection. Now the question is, why should this not be allowed? Imagine I am this candidate. Okay, and you are my voters. You have voted for me. When you vote for me, will you look at only me as the candidate, or do you think your choice will also depend on the party behind me? In India, majority of the cases, the candidate's victory will depend directly on which party is he contesting from. There have been instances where people did not know the candidate, but they have actually went ahead and contested. Went ahead, contested, and won the elections because of the party from which they were fielded. Okay, so please remember that in India, a candidate's victory or whether he wins or loses elections depends on the party from which he is contesting. So you have voted for me because I am contesting from party A. Okay, I become the MP. I go and join party B. You are my voter. How will you feel? Obviously, you'll feel cheated. Obviously, you'll feel disgusted. You will be angry. Yeah, there'll be a lot of anguish. And what happens is because I joined this party, you will somewhere lose a trust, not in me, but also in the election system as a whole. Imagine this person, because he joined in B, they had to disqualify him on grounds of defection, and there were re-elections. Trust me, whenever you have re-elections or by-elections, what we call, the voter turnout will be less. Okay, because many people who have voted in the first instance, who have selected that candidate because of his party and he has changed party, will actually lose trust. They lose interest in democracy. This is not good for democracy because it leads to people's distrust, public distrust in democracy. When we do not trust something, when we think something is bad, we keep ourselves away from it. So what happens is people alienate themselves from the democratic process. What happens when people alienate themselves? Alienate themselves is where people cut off themselves from the democratic process. I am not interested. Your government, you do whatever you want to. What will happen when people are not interested? Government becomes too powerful because there is nobody watching the government, there is nobody questioning the government. There will be misuse of power, and ultimately we only suffer. That is the reason why defection should not be allowed. That is on a larger plate. But on a smaller level, defections are bad because they result in discontinuity and inconsistency in public policy. As simple as, the ruling party changes in a state, right from the painting. of the government offices, everything will change. Imagine we spend crores of rupees changing the paint of the government offices because the ruling party has changed. Okay, so that is the amount of money we spend in getting a makeover because the party has changed. Imagine this happens every 1.5 year or 2 years. What are we going to do? There'll be a discontinuity in public policy, there'll be inconsistency in public policy. The focus will be on keeping power, not on administration, so it leads to negligence in administration. That is the reason why defection should not be allowed. Now, let's understand what why this law has come into existence. What is the reason? I don't know whether you have heard of this. There is a very famous, infamous statement rather. We say Aya Ram, Gaya Ram. There was a MP called Gayalal who defected in 1960s. Till 1960s, defection was not a major problem in India. But please remember, defection, the history of defection goes back to the pre-independence era in India. We had elections in 1935. So defection historically goes back to the British era. However, defection became a prominent issue in India only from 1960s. In 1960, there was one in the 1960s, in the decade of 1960, there was one MP from Haryana who shifted parties, three parties in a span of 15 to 20 days, and it became a talk of the town. It was all over the media. And that is where this famous saying came, Aya Ram, Gaya Ram. It's like, Deko Deko Aya, Gaya kind of situation. So this situation actually attracted a lot of attention of the politicians and people on defections, and that is how a parliamentary committee on defection was constituted. It was headed by Y.B. Chavan. Y.B. Chavan headed the Parliamentary Committee on Defection, and this committee recommended that there should be a separate law to address defection in India. That is how the law has come into picture. And this law was made in by the 65th Constitutional Amendment Act 1985. The 10th schedule was inserted in the constitution, and in this 10th schedule, the anti defection law was placed. Now, what does the anti defection law say? If I have to sum the law, it is as simple as this. One part of the law tells you when can a person be defected, when can an elected representative be defected for disqualified for defection. What do we mean by this? Basically, we mean that what are the grounds for defection? Okay, what will not be the grounds for defection? What will not be considered or as a defection? And the third aspect of it is who decides. Who decides whether it is disqualification on defection or not? So, who decides? These are the three things that the law answers. What are the grounds for defection? The first ground for defection. What are the grounds for defection? The first ground for defection is simple. If a person who's elected on a party ticket goes and elected on a party ticket goes and joins another party, it is considered as defection. So, I am elected from party A, I go and join party B, it is defection. You can be disqualified for defection. The second the second ground is an independent member. A person who has contested independently and won the elections goes and joins a political party after 6 months. It is considered as a defection. The third is when you have a splinter group formed. For example, one third members decide that they will not continue in the party, or there is a split in the party, two-third and one-third. One-third members will be disqualified for defection. One-third members will be disqualified for defection. Okay, so basically, this is about the grounds of defection. When is it not considered as a ground for defection? When an independent member joins a political party within 6 months. When the speaker or deputy speaker resign from their office, from their political party, and do not join any other party, then it is not a defection. Two-third members will not be defected. In a party split, two-third members will not be defected because it is majority. So grounds for defection, not grounds for defection. Now, who decides? The decision is made by the speaker, and the speaker acts as a tribunal. Okay. In this case, it is considered, the speaker is considered as a tribunal. Therefore, judicial review is applicable in case of defections. Okay, whenever there is a defection, the court will have the right to see whether the defection is right or wrong. Now, what are the loopholes in the law? That is more important. The first loophole in the law is we are saying the speaker should decide, but no time frame. However, recently the Supreme Court said, please decide within 3 months, otherwise we have to interfere. So no time frame. In within the law, there is no time frame. Okay, it gives absolute a lot of power to the speaker for that matter. So no time frame is the most important. The second is no consultation mechanism. The speaker does not consult anybody. He does not have to consult the election commission nor the Supreme Court. The decision is his own. So no consultation mechanism. The third is, if at all you're disqualified on grounds of defection, can you recontest? Yes. No restriction on contesting in the by-elections, on contesting elections, not just by-elections, any elections you can contest. Okay, so practically there is no punishment. The only punishment that was added much later by the 91st Constitutional Amendment Act was basically that if you are not elected in the by elections, then you cannot hold any post. You cannot be nominated to any post for the remaining period. So practically, there is no punishment for defection. These are the drawbacks of the law. And remember, the most important case related to defection is Kihoto Holahun versus Zachendu. In this case, Supreme Court upheld the anti-defection law and it declared free and fair elections as a part of the basic structure of the constitution. Not just that, it also said that speaker functions as a tribunal under the anti-defection law. Therefore, defections are subjected to judicial review. And remember, in the recent cases, and other important update that the Supreme Court clarification that the Supreme Court gave is speaker only has the right to say whether it is a disqualification on grounds of defection or not. Meaning, speaker can decide whether it is defection or not, but he cannot decide on whether the member can contest again in elections or not. He does not have that power. The power is limited to deciding on whether he can be disqualified for defection or not. Okay, so this is about the anti-defection law. A quick recap, review, and explanation of the law. Make a flow chart like this on the law. It will be really helpful because in one sheet, if you can make this complete flow chart, it's going to give you a bird's eye view. In about 4 or 5 minutes, you can just understand what is when a person will be defected, when a person will not be defected, who decides on defection, what is the punishment for defection, all this put in a simple sheet and take and study that. It's going to be easy for you to revise. So this is about the anti-defection law. Thank you so much for joining me for the live. See you all again tomorrow with a new topic. Thank you.